everybody. Welcome. Thank you for being here on what I know it's not that cold, but what I'm enjoying calling a dark and stormy night. I have a limited number of days a year that I'm allowed to say that, so I take full advantage of it. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. For those who don't know me, my name is Sam. I'm one of the proprietors of this store, the Norwich Bookstore, in which you find yourselves on this fine Friday evening, and it is such a pleasure to be here with all of you. I feel lucky to get to do this every day, and we couldn't do it without you and your support, so thank you so much. You'll hear me say that a lot. Thank you is a big thing for me and for us. And that's especially important because tonight we have Jam recording for us. Some of you may remember Jam as its previous incarnation is CATV. They are still a community access TV station here serving the Upper Valley, but they also do so much more. They are a media incubator. They're teaching classes for kids, teaching them how to use cameras and podcasts and things like that. And if you haven't checked them out in a while, I would really encourage you to check out uvjam.org, which is their website where they have the streaming archive. You can see other events like this, events from all around the community, or check out their storefront in White River Junction on South Main there in the Newberry Market, which is a really cool multimedia space. And so thank you to Jam. They are an incredible community resource for us, and we're so glad that they come out and do these events with us. Now, tonight, as every night that we gather, we are here to celebrate books. They're kind of what we do here at the Norwich Bookstore. They're our stock and trade. They're what keep the lights on. They're what gets me out of bed every morning. And tonight, of course, we are here to celebrate one book in particular, and that is Walk With Me, the new collection of poems by Madeline May Kunin. If you have not picked up your copy yet, or 3 or 5, gifting season is almost upon us, I encourage you to check them out at the back of the room. At the end of this event, we will be open, the register will be open, and Ashley back there would be happy to sell you a copy. If you love what you hear tonight, and I think you will, we would love to make sure you go home with one of these books. And your book purchase, it keeps this whole thing going. It's what keeps the lights on in the bookstore. It's what allows us to keep doing this reading series and have it be free and open to the public. And it is what supports publishers like Vermont's own Green Writers Press, who put this book out. And it is what supports authors and poets and allows them to keep doing what they are doing. And so it makes the whole thing go round, and you end up with a great book, so everybody wins. So we encourage you to visit the back counter at the end of the evening. And if you enjoyed tonight's event, you'd like to see what else we've got going on, please do check out our website, norwichbookstore.com. Follow us on social media. We're at Norwich Bookstore on most major platforms. Or sign up for our email newsletter. We send one a week on Sundays. It's got a little essay, some bad jokes, occasionally a good joke. I don't write those. Some new releases, and our upcoming events. Next week we'll have Ross Gay, incredible renowned poet and the author of the Book of Delights. The Book of More Delights is his new one. He'll be right across the street at the Norwich Congregational Church. James Sturm, great cartoonist, will be here on Wednesday in the store. So there's so much going on, and I hope we'll see you back for some of these events. And now, without further ado, it is my absolute pleasure to welcome somebody we've been really looking forward to having in this space for quite a while. Madeline May Kunin, as many of you know, was the first woman to be elected governor of Vermont, and she was elected for 3 terms. She was also the U.S. ambassador to Switzerland, the U.S. Deputy Secretary of Education, and she's the author of 4 previous non-poetry books. Those are Living a Political Life, The New Feminist Agenda, Defining the Next Revolution for Women, Work, and Family, and Pearls, Politics, and Power, and Coming of Age, My Journey to the 80s. She's also the author of now 2 collections of poetry. Those are Red Kite, Blue Sky, and the brand new Walk With Me, which we'll be hearing from tonight. She's currently the James Marsh Professor at Large at the University of Vermont, where she gives guest lectures on feminism, women, and politics. She served on the board of the Institute for Sustainable Communities, a non-governmental organization that she founded in 1991, and more recently she launched Emerge Vermont to encourage and support women in politics. She lives in Shelburne, Vermont, and we are so honored to have her here in Norwich with us tonight. Please join me in welcoming Madeline May Kunin.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam. That was a rapid and thorough introduction, and I appreciate it. And it's also very good to be here in in Norwich. I spent some time here when I was a Montgomery Fellow at Dartmouth, and made some friends and lived a good life. I never had a governor's mansion as governor because Vermont doesn't have one, but I had a mansion as a Montgomery Fellow, so thank you. Thank you, Dartmouth. I've made this transition from being a politician to becoming a poet. And I wasn't sure I was a poet when I started writing, but then I guess a year or two ago, I became a finalist for, sponsored by independent bookstores in New England. And when I saw the announcement, I said, well, I guess I am a poet. And you'll be able to judge at the end of this talk. You know, as a politician, you're more of an extrovert. You have to give real speeches, not poetry readings, and you have to win people over to vote for you. But as a poet, I became more of an introvert, where you spend time alone and think. Not that politicians never think, but sometimes it seems if that's true. But, and I found as I was getting older that different things were happening to me. And so I explored them and I wanted to write them down. So that's my new career. And the launching of this book coincided with my 90th birthday, and that takes some thought. As some of you may be near there, but you know, when I was 10 years old, that was a big birthday in my memory. I was very proud, and I stood in front of the apartment building we were living in Forest Hills, New York, and wanted to announce that I was 10 years old. When I was 30 years old, I thought that my life had ended. Do you remember when they used to say, don't trust anybody over 30? Well, I sort of took it seriously. And a friend of mine and I, we each wheeled our baby carriages and sat at a cafe in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and said, what will we do with our lives? And if somebody had tapped me on the shoulder at that point and said, not to worry, you're going to be governor of Vermont, and that would have eased my distress considerably. But here I am, and I'll start with a poem that the title is taken from. Walk with me. Walk with me. Get your hat and coat and walk with me. I heard the words sung this afternoon during a folk music concert. They were seductive. Walk with me through the woods, along the sea, up the mountain. Walk with me. Yes, I will. I had a debate about the ending of this poem, and it's gone back and forth. In the book, it just says yes, and I left the space for your imagination. But then when I was reading, I thought it needs something more. And when my publisher printed it in big print, which the book is in small print. I'm having cataract surgery in about 2 weeks, and then I won't need to worry about a thing. Everybody who's had it tells me. But now I still do. But Anyway, here's a poem I wrote last year, a year ago. I am 89, hovering below 90, which scares me, undeniably close to losing everything that holds me together. My knees, my teeth, my head that plays hide and seek with words. Can I write? I wonder. Can I love? What shall I do beyond exist? Live. And that's why I'm here today. This is a poem called Only December. We're about to get there. It's dark before it is supposed to get dark. A layered gray sky with a few holes that open to the next layer. Almost bulletproof. It's only December. So many more grays ahead. Don't hurry. This is your life. Chew your food slowly. Look at your footprints in the snow. Swing your arms back and forth. Breathe deeply and count. This is a poem called Women's Lunch. Every summer I invite 5 or 6 people who were leaders in my administration as governor, and we have lunch. We talk and talk on the deck on a summer afternoon. It isn't gossip. It's no secrets. It's plain good talk while we sip iced tea and eat chicken salad, lettuce leaves still slippery with olive oil and vinegar. We sit at a round table, perfect for 4, under a red umbrella shaded from the August sun. Small intimacies hold us together. We shower comfort on a new widow. A husband with cancer gets new medication. We agree with her hope. We too want to save him. We go back to our past that is so much longer than our future. So many things are funny now as we retell our stories and split with laughter before we say goodbye feeling good. Registration is not in this book, it's in an earlier book, a blue book called Blue Sky, Red Kite. Registration. It's time to renew my car registration. The notice in the mail gave me a choice. Renew it for 1 year or 2. If I renew it for 2, I save $12. I pause and think about life. Will I still be able to drive in 2 years? Or will I be even alive in 2 years? This existential question demands a reply. I didn't have to decide so soon about mortality. If I die the first year after I paid for 2 years, I won't get my money back. That much I know. But if I renew my registration for 1 year and live for 2 years, I will have lost the discount. I agonized too long. It comes down to basics. Am I an optimist or a pessimist? The Department of Motor Vehicle remains dumb. It offers no advice. I sleep the sleep of the undecided. I wake up the next morning and say to myself, what the hell? And write the check for 2. This is a poem I wrote not too long ago. It's called Fear. I am afraid, not for myself. I have almost arrived where I was going to go. I fear for the others, the children and their children, and those after that. How will they carry on in a burning world? They read the words, do not touch, nailed to the globe like for toddlers warned to stay away from a hissing stove. I fear water like never before. A blind river insists on smashing everything in its way. Cars upside down, dolls without heads. I fear storms. Shorelines once fastened firm are torn away, splashing second-floor windows, red roofs running away. I see a farmer standing before his field, grown hard as a dinner plate. Drought crashes into dust. When that day comes, when my children must move on from sodden dirt from the rain, I'll be gone. But now, as we wait, I grow afraid. This is a poem which maybe many of you were tempted to write about the loon. The loon's lingering, I want to tell you about the loon's lingering call. When I say loon slowly with a long ooh, as in moon, I repeat, loon, for pleasure. I listen to its mournful cry from somewhere in the lake. I don't know where. What meaning has this human voice? Is the loon screaming danger to its newly hatched chicks? Or is the loon, or is that not it at all? Could the loon be singing soprano to its beloved? When the loon sings to me, I startled. So clear a sound slicing through the air until it reaches my heart. I wait in suspended silence for a second round. The air remains still. I listen for the memory of the longing loom, touching every pore of my skin before it melts into the lake and is gone. This is a poem which you may relate to. It's called At the Eye Doctor. I sat in the ophthalmologist's waiting room for 2.5 hours with my New Yorker magazine that I could not read because my eyes were dilated. I could not see, but I could think about all the wasted time spent sitting in a chair looking at other patients, wondering who would be next. When would it be my turn? Don't they understand? I don't have time to waste. I am old. I focus on what the patients are wearing, their sneakers and socks, their hands, their eyes. Meanwhile, I rehearse how I would complain to the doctor, to anyone about how badly they managed the system. It was for the convenience of the doctor, not the patient. I would explain we were helpless, shifting for hours in our chairs, staring at every nurse who walked by, hoping we would be next. The door opened. The smiling doctor walked in. "Hi, Madeline," he exclaimed. "How's your son, Adam?" "Fine," I said, and smiled back. I forgot every word I was going to say. This is sort of a difficult poem for me to read. It's called Kaddish, which is the prayer in Judaism that you say for the dead, most usually at the anniversary of the death. My father died when I was 2.5, some 85 years ago. I work hard to picture him alive so I can mourn him on the anniversary of his death and recite Kaddish according to law. Photographs, some brown, some black, are the only leavings of his life. Small swatches that I try to sew together into a garment that fits his elegant pose. He was a miser with memories and with his love for me. If he had really loved me, would he have killed himself by sliding over the side of the rowboat and letting himself slip into the blue waters of Lake Zurich? Was it sunny on that day, July 1935? I would like to think that the lake sparkled, that the first gulps of water tasted fine, quenching his tortured thirst. When did the water turn black? When was he retching for air? When did his feet scream? This is a different type of poem. Lost and Found. I looked under the bed first for my hearing aid. It might have fallen off when I put my hearing aid on, too dark to see much under the bed except for crumpled Kleenex. The silver piece that fit behind my ear would have glinted. It would have announced itself. I looked further in unlikely places, just in case. Behind the toilet bowl, in the wastebasket, covered by piles of paper, under the pillows in the living room, next to my computer, amidst pens that no longer wrote. On the bedspread, perhaps, in case it dropped when I had been making the bed. Under the dining room table, dropped while eating dinner. I moved the chairs and looked more than once, and once again and again. Losing the hearing aid was worse than losing an earring, which I had done the day before. The hearing aid was part of my body. I was lopsided with just one in my left ear. I was almost deaf, oblivious to what was happening around me. I had to find it. I talked myself into believing I could replace just one hearing aid, and it would not cost thousands of dollars. I feared 2 hearing aids would, after my third round of searching both the house and my car. I called the Loose Hearing Center to find out how long it would take to get one new hearing aid, or God forbid, what would it cost? Stephanie was not in. I'd leave a message, I was told. I did, trying not to sound foolish, having gotten that close to spending a fortune to buy a new one. I retraced my steps once more. I stopped for the fourth time at the small hallway table where I kept face masks and winter hats. I picked everything up with my 2 fingers, one by one, and shook it. A tiny silver triangle hung from a string on a mask. Oh, I sang. Laughter bounced inside me. For the first time, I had found the secret source of happiness. Lose something precious, like a diamond ring or a hearing aid. Look for it long enough to waste half or a whole day. Suffer self-flagellation. When all hope is gone, you find it. Okay, second time around, I decided to read the book again because the prose was so thick it deserved more than one go-around. It deserved more than one go-around to untangle. Surprise! Second time around, the words were virgin new to me. Printer's ink unsmudged. I turned the page. Had I really read this before? Yes. I admired the writer with awe and envy, chewing on each word, enjoying the taste. How could I have lost the word so fast, leaving my mind barely touched? The first time I had told the world how great the book was. The second time around, how great the book is. Writing poetry, it's a mystery. I mean, you don't know where the words come from and how they fit in their spaces, and it's just almost a different frame of mind, and I'm still searching as I continue to write. This is called writing poetry. When I write poetry, I am in a dark place. It's not a cave or a castle or a dome or a place with sides or a roof or a floor. It's not filled with smoke. I could tell if it were. My throat would spit out a cough. My hand would clap over my mouth, quick as a trap. I would see shapes, circles and squares and triangles, falling into each other to find their place, lined up in a row, ordering themselves in one line or two or three. I wish I could tell you more about how words come my way. Writing is like dreaming. What remains are wisps that float my way and then fade into liquid form like melting ice. Thank you. I'll be happy to. Thank you. Thank you. I welcome comments or questions or.
I love the poem about hearing aids because they don't go with masks.
No.
And more often than not, I've taken off a mask and a hearing aid is just gone.
You and me both.
Oh.
But, you look someplace the first time, and if you can't find it, you think that's done. So you have to go back. And usually it's the most familiar place, which you forget. But any comments? Yes.
Poetry doesn't seem to be a logical extension from political work to poetry. Is there comments you can make on how you found poetry or how you ended up getting into poetry?
That's a good question. But as a young woman, I occasionally wrote poetry, but I didn't concentrate. I was too busy doing other things. And for poetry, you have to concentrate and usually be quiet as you look at the word processor or piece of paper. My writing is gone. I have what's called an essential tremor, which everybody says is not essential to me, but it means it's not a serious disease. But anyway, I write on a laptop, and I wrote a poem when I was in 5th grade, which I thought made me a poet, but I still remember the first line, which I thought was great. I won't repeat it. But I think I've always wanted to be a poet, and I like to write. I went to Columbia School of Journalism, and I actually came to Vermont to work at, believe it or not, the Burlington Free Press, when it was an actual newspaper. And that's the truth. I mean, it had news, not just about restaurants folding, not even restaurants opening, restaurants folding. But that's enough about the Free Press. But so I've always been a writer and enjoyed writing, and I think it just, as I was growing older, I was curious about what was happening to me. And I wrote an earlier book, which is both prose and some poems, and it's about coming of age, and it's sort of a play on coming of age growing up, coming of age growing old. And that was my first book, and then I wrote another book, Blue Sky, Red Kite, which I mentioned. So I guess what encouraged me was audience reaction, when people felt it touched something that they felt. And I think any writer or artist is thrilled when that happens. Do you write?
Doesn't everybody?
I guess they do. Yes, Dean.
The objects that you choose to write about are by and large pretty mundane. They're not things that would inspire most people to write a poem. So how do you happen to look at something and say, well, that deserves a poem?
The honest answer is I don't know. I think it's the ordinary that intrigues me. I mean, you don't have to write about hearts and flowers, especially since so many people have already. But my reaction, well, I'm trying to think of a poem of ordinary things. But Walk With Me is ordinary, but it just struck me as being so intimate and beautiful the way it was expressed. So I haven't printed every poem I wrote. Some are a little too personal, which I can't get the courage to read, at least not to audiences I know, but I just think about things, or they strike me. You know, a lot of modern poets are very dense and very hard to understand. I love the New Yorker, but I don't often understand their poetry. I see some people shaking their heads. I mean, some are great poems, no doubt, but I want to be understood, and that's how I think. Yeah, but I'm glad you find them as poems.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's a gift to people who read or hear you speak your poems to talk about things that make you vulnerable, the ways that you ponder for way too long about the motor vehicle bureau 1 year or 2 years. As you were reading that poem, I was thinking, oh, yeah, it's just the allowing the people who read your work or hear you speak it to be a part of your life. It's a gift. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I just sort of suddenly saw it as ridiculous, or saw myself as ridiculous, as I was trying to figure out between 1 and 2 years. But it helps to have a sense of humor. Even as you get old, it's even more important. Yeah.
Does it help to know that you're not the only one that thinks about that when they renew their...
Now it does. Now it does. Not the first time.
But I did have another question. Do you have a favorite poet
Well,
or two? Or...
yeah, it's so hard to choose. Of modern poets, I mean, I love Robert Frost, I love John Donne, I love Shakespeare, but Elizabeth Bishop is somebody I love of more, I mean, she's died, but she's in the contemporary branch, but I can't say she's my absolute favorite, but I like her, yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming. And I will sign some books.